And um, Andreas, would you like to start by explaining the concept and the reason why we would start and greet people with a sweet and sour?
Yeah, sure. So when you think about networking, really what it's about is connecting with another person, right? Raise your hand on your screen or virtually with a reaction if you like small talk, right? Nobody's hands are really going up. There's a couple of us that are smirking as we do it, but we really don't, right? What most of us want is we want what my mentor calls is deep talk, right? We want to connect with another human being. And that connection could be something professional, it could be something personal. And the reality is most of us struggle, right? It's just like in school, we learned reading and writing and math and science, but how to really build a genuine connection, an authentic connection with somebody is not something we all learned. So this is an opportunity as a sweet and sour as a practice to find a way to connect more deeply with another person, to share a little bit more about yourself and to learn more about the other human being that you're building a connection with. And then all the professional and all that other stuff can follow, right? So this is a great practice to do that, to just really genuinely connect. And Maggie, if you want to, I'm not sure if you want me to role model it or how we're going to do it, but that's the context for the sweet and sour. It's what's something sweet going on in your life right now, and what's something sour. And those things could be personal or professional. It's entirely up to you as you share with somebody.
I would love it if you role model and
Yeah, put me on
anyone
the
in
spot.
anyone that's engaged as a volunteer would also start to role model this as well. So if you're on the spot, I'll start. So my suite is through the work that I've done with ASCM, I've gained a lot of visibility. And I was invited to present at a clinical supply chain conference in Boston next month. So, really excited about that, really excited about the opportunities to meet individuals that we could help through the work that we do through ASCM. But the sour is I'm a little terrified. And I have revised my topic multiple times. And now I'm starting to feel the pressure because I need to submit, what am I going to talk about? So that's where I'm starting from.
Thank you for sharing, Maggie. Yeah, I'm happy to go next. For me, my suite is over the past 2 years, I've worked with my mentor. He's a gentleman named Keith Ferrazzi. I've worked with him for the last decade. He wrote a book called Never Eat Alone. For a lot of you, it's a book I recommend. It's a really great book on networking. And I've worked with him for the last 2 years in this community called Beyond Connections, where we have over 600 people from 40 different countries and 30 industries. And I get to meet amazing people like Derek and Maggie and professionals from all over the world. And so that's been incredibly sweet for me, is how it's enriched my life and like the really authentic connections and relationships and even business relationships I've gotten to build with people. So that would be my sweet. It's very sweet. My sour, honestly, is a personal thing. It's my parents are in their 70s, and I think my dad's in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, and my family's not really addressing it, and my mom is kind of not acknowledging it and not taking him to a doctor and not really talking to him about it. And so I'm in this weird spot where I'm in my 30s and I'm like not sure how to parent my parents. And it's a weird stage to be in, and I'm not sure if some of you can relate to. So that's definitely a sour for me right now in terms of where I'm at. Who'd like to go next? Derek, you want
I'm
to come
happy to go
on?
next. Absolutely. You kind of stole a bit of my sour as well, Andreas. I'm going through some similar things there. So my suite is, Maggie mentioned in the midst of a sort of a portfolio career. And over the past year or so, I've really been diving into, where and how AI can be a transformative enabler inside of supply chains. And actually, as part of that journey is I'm actually looking to launch a podcast looking at how you actually integrate supply AI into your supply chains effectively, not as a slogan, not as hype, but how do you actually get on the ground and make it work for you? And so I've been working with the team, and earlier this week actually got to see what that logo looks like. So that was really sweet and exciting for me to actually see what that logo is, how the name looks, and actually feel that, that idea starting to come to life. So that was exciting for me this week. So that was my sweet. My sour is earlier this year. It's a bit of a sweet, but the sour part of it is I got a chance to go down to. I'm from Belize, So born and raised, and my mom is still down there, and a bit to what Andreas was talking about. I don't get to see her as often as I'd like. I was able to get down there in January. So wait, the sour's coming, don't worry. I was able to get down there in January and see her, but unfortunately injured myself, right? So I think part of the lesson there is I'd been exercising, trying to exercise, and I injured a muscle. And for about 2.5 weeks, I couldn't sit down. So I'm down there visiting with my mom, and I can't sit down. So we didn't get a chance to sit down and eat a meal with her, but I got a chance to spend some time. So it's, I guess, a bit of a cheat there of a half sweet, half sour that from an injury perspective. So maybe the lesson there is, don't you get over 40, you got to start paying attention to what those muscles are telling you.
Thanks for sharing.
I'll jump in if we're going down the line. Derek, we definitely have to talk after because I have a top 5% most listened to podcast globally, and I do podcast consulting, so helping people go from idea to launch and grow to a globally ranked podcast. So there you go. So my suite right now is that I've been helping with the start of the new year. A lot of people use their voice to make an impact through podcasting, as well as I own an apparel company as well for the U.S. Coast Guard. So helping the Coast Guard represent what they do. And my sour is that I am a military spouse. So I am currently, like, as Derek had mentioned, super far away from a lot of my awesome peers on this call and family because I'm currently in Juneau, Alaska. So that coldness right now really represents. And we had a historic snowstorm in December, so I've been doing a lot of volunteer work, and it's kind of a sour because a lot of people lost their homes overnight due to 80 inches of snowfall in 5 days, and avalanches and just crazy stuff. So witnessing that and a lot of people being displaced for long periods of time, it's not great.
Good stuff. All right, I guess I can go next. I was saying this in the practice part, but I'll say it again. So I work at Excelis. We're about $1 billion, and we're merging with a $750 million company named Vico. And I always wanted to get into mergers and acquisitions, so it's pretty exciting, but I can't believe how much work there is. And looking at systems and the differences between the two companies, and maybe the culture, we're not really sure. But anyway, we're still waiting for approvals. So that's the sour. I got what I wanted, but yipes.
I can kind of jump in because mine's kind of similar to Ken. So I actually have been trying to move more recently into like a management track at work. So like still doing some of my own like individual contributor recruiting work, but also bringing in a junior under me. So trying to balance, not only my day to day, but also courses and all the learnings that come along with being a manager is proven a little bit difficult. So a little bit of sweet and sour there with the same thing.
I can jump in. Hey, everyone. Great to see everyone. My suite is actually very apt for this topic. Looking for a new role, and through networking, I was able to get through the screening process. And just kind of briefly, it was somebody I didn't know 6 months ago knew somebody at the company. So I networked the first time, networked into the second one, and that got me through a line of 500 applications to have a conversation that happened today. So it was a great conversation, really excited about it, but just a great example of power of networking. And on the sour part, place that I had spent a long part of my career went through a reorganization or is going through one this week. So unfortunately, a lot of my good friends and ex-colleagues are also looking for roles at this point in time. So that's a very sour thing for me personally.
Hi, I'm Carla Gates. I work for Zoll Medical, and my suite is that I've connected and met so many new people outside of my industry through this, you know, organization, and I'm really enjoying getting those new connections and seeing viewpoints of things other than just in medical manufacturing. And my sour is in this cold. I really don't veer outside of the house very often, and so I'm kind of getting cabin fever. I'm sure many of you can relate to that, but it really starts to get to you after a while. I'm not outdoorsy. I don't like to be in slippery spots, and so I tend to just stay in, and I've had enough of in.
I can jump in. My name is Kirill, and my suite is going back to Northeastern as a guest lecturer and designing my own case study for supply chain and teaching students some good concepts about real industry and what's happening right now. So that was really cool. For the sour part, I'm originally from Ukraine, and a lot of my friends right now are having trouble getting basic needs met with the power outages and water and other things. So I'm calling them and they just cannot respond because they don't have power and cannot even charge their phones. And it's super cold out there. So that's the sour part.
So, if you found these conversation points something where you feel like you know people a little bit better, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, do it on the screen or use the emoji response? Do you feel like you now know the people that shared better, or you have something you could build a connection with? Yeah, right. A whole bunch of reactions, all right. And it didn't take much, right? Like sweet and sour, it wasn't overly complex. It didn't feel that unnatural, right? Maybe the first couple, you're like, this is kind of weird, right? But after that, Kirill just jumped in and was like, hey, I can go next, right? And a lot of you probably heard things where you're like, man, I resonate with that, right? And it's easy to follow on. You can be like, I relate to the same thing. Like I'm actually going through the same sour. Derek said it kind of saying the same thing. There's themes you can hear, right? A lot of the sweets are things that are going really well professionally or personally. And a lot of the sours are things that, are unexpected things that happen professionally, or things that like my example, as an example, things in life that are inevitable as part of our personal lives, right? I have aging parents and whatnot. So, one of the ways that I really like to use a sweet and sour, and this happens a lot of networking events, people will say, how you doing? Or something like that, as a generic opener. And what they don't know is I reverse sweet and sour them. So when they say, how you doing? I say, well, something really sweet right now is that my business just took off, blah, 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 blah. And then I say, something that's not going so well, or something that's a little bit more sour is XYZ. And then I'll flip it back to them and say, what's something in your life that's a little sweet or a little sour right now? And they don't even know they've been sweet and sour. So they ask me, how am I doing? I share a sweet and sour response without saying, hey, let's do this sweet and sour thing, right? And I respond with something sweet, something sour. And then I prompt them. I say, what's something sweet and something sour going on for you? So they've seen the behavior in me, they've built a connection, and then it's easy for them to respond, right, in kind. So think about it next time you go to an event and somebody opens with the generic, how you doing? Then try to respond to something like that. Maggie, do we want to ask anybody if anybody has any questions or any thoughts about it in terms of how they if they have
Yes.
any challenges with it? So does anybody have any questions or anything that came up where you're like, I'm not sure how I'd use this, or any reflections from hearing it?
Andres, I have one. You
Sure.
mentioned that when you try to get an introduction with someone and you meet someone for the first time and you use this technique of sweet and sour by just sharing more about yourself than just answering how are you doing. But would you use the same thing for people you already know? And in which case? Because for me, like I meet with my colleagues at work every day or every other week, and then all of a sudden I come without saying how are you doing? I say like give me your sweet and sour. So how would you implement
Yeah.
that for people who you already know and talk on a regular basis and you never had something like that happen? It's much
Yeah.
easier to do for a person you just met.
Totally. So for somebody you look like, I know Derek and Maggie, right? And so like when we catch up, like we'll often do a sweet and sour or another practice that's similar to it. I don't want to confuse you guys with more of now. Let's focus on sweet and sour. But there's a number of these types of things you can do, right? So you can vary it up so it's not always sweet and sour as well. And so when you introduce it with somebody, whether it's friends or colleagues, you could say, we spend so much time always talking about like just digging right into the professional stuff. Would you be open to a couple of minutes, just like, catching up and seeing like what's going on or what's top of mind for us? Or you could say something like, hey, you normally jump right into the business topics, but I'd love to just know, what's going on for you, what's top of mind, right? And then you can say like, or for those of you that are more like structure oriented, you can say, hey, I learned this new practice from some leaders that I really respect. And they said that this is a good way to connect. So might feel a little weird at first, call it out, call out the elephant and be like, maybe it feels a little weird at first, but I did it the other day with a group of supply chain professionals and I really liked it. So here's a question. What's something sweet going on? What's something sour? I'll go first, right? And you role model it. You say, here's what it looks like. So you say, I'll go first. You share in 30 or 60 seconds. And then you say, how about you? What's something sweet and something sour going on for you? And then the way that go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to add to that another really good way to phrase it where it's not as sweet and sour, but still the same approach with peers is saying something like, hey, Ken, what is going well in your world right now? Or what's going well? And like pick a topic because one, typically people then orient and think deeply about whether it's personally or professionally, what is going really well and what isn't. And they tend to verbally process that and say that as well. So it's a different approach to a similar concept of what you're talking about, where you can actually then sit there and say, yeah, like, we do network, we do talk on a regular basis. What's going well for you today?
Yeah. You don't specifically have to use the words sweet or sour, right? It's more about something that's high and something that's low because the reality is we're all human, right? We have things that are highs and we have things that are lows and they make us fully human. And those are the things that we can really connect on as well.
I think if I could add two things to be mindful of is one, role modeling it yourself is a really great way to get people comfortable with, okay, I get it, right? I kind of see what and where and how this is going. So, let that be sort of that's the first sort of nugget that you offer is here's how it works. I think the second thing is also it evolves. It evolves over time, right? So when you're first trying it, oftentimes you'll just get fairly superficial answers, right? It's going to be weather's great and just very simple things. But you'll see over time as people progressively peel that onion, it's a great way to just continually build that relationship. And what I always find is I learn something new, however superficial it is, I'll learn something new that I didn't really understand or appreciate of that person the last time we did the sweet and sour. So, it might be something that you might need to give a couple of tries before it kind of really hits a nice stride.
Derek, you made a really great point. I'll use an example from all of you that's a professional example. So 10 years ago, I worked with BASF with their supply chain organization and their business relationship managers. They were basically an internal service provider for the rest of BASF. And we worked with this team of 30 leaders that all knew each other professionally. They worked together 5, 10, 15, some of them 20 years. And we introduced the sweet and sour. We introduced this one in a different practice. And then we invited everybody in the meeting to share and only share what you're comfortable in sharing, right? You don't have to open it up and blow it wide open. You share what you're comfortable in sharing. And this is German culture. And we went around and everybody went. We got to one gentleman, very reserved, and he said, I declined to share. And we said, okay, it doesn't usually happen, but we'll move on. We met with this team every 6 weeks for the course of 6 months. The second meeting, we went around, he declined to share. Third meeting, we started the meeting, we said, who'd like to go first? He raised his hand and he said, this week going on is that I got to work on my car this weekend because I own a farm and I build my tractors and stuff. And my sour is that, something, and to us, it was like pretty superficial, right? But for him, he was finally opening up, right? And for him, it was a huge step. And so to Derek's point, right, for everybody has different levels of what they're going to share in terms of their highs or their lows or what's going on. And that's perfectly okay. And over time, you'll see like people like him, they're completely closed off, might actually be the ones that open up and be like, I've seen it, it's safe to share because it was role modeled by others to Derek's point. And now I feel okay to do it, right? And so even in highly reserved German cultures at BASF, it works over time. So That's the other reflection. Thank you, Derek, for sharing that. Any other questions here about how to use this type of practice, or anything that came up for you guys as we were going through it?
I think we might want to talk to them about the one-liners
Yeah.
a little bit, because that'll be, I have placed the facilitator in the participant guides in the chat. The participant guides, of course, you'll want to take with you afterwards, because this is the beginning of a practice. But maybe we can introduce them to that as a concept and as an idea.
Sure. You mean the one-liners in terms of how to describe yourself?
Correct. And
Sure.
you know, and I'll give a cautionary tale. There was a student that reached out to me for networking purposes last week, and it was a 1 hour call. He spent 20 minutes introducing himself, and I will say to all of the students here, you're digging out of a hole if you talk for that long without interaction. And so that's why I find the one-liners so useful and so helpful.
Yeah. The one-liners are really important, right? And when you think about a one-liner, what a lot of people get wrong is they're trying to market themselves and make themselves sound good, right? They're trying to use some catchphrase of, I'm at the intersection of this and this, and at the end it just leaves people confused, right? The point of a one-liner is twofold. One, it's to help the person understand what it is you fundamentally do, because most of us make a mistake of saying, I work for this company, I work for Google, or I work in supply chain. And that's great. But if you meet somebody like me who really loves to network and introduce people, the solution that you provide might be solving the problem of many people I know, right? And I could connect you. So I might be able to bridge that gap. The problem that you're facing, I might know somebody in my network that has a solution. So if your one-liner is just, oh, I work in supply chain, or I'm a student, that doesn't really help, right? What you want to achieve in your one-liner is to help somebody understand what you do, but more importantly, what's the benefit that you provide in what you do, right? So I'll use my example. I used to have a really wordy, really long one-liner that was all these important, innovative leaders and great words. And then I simplified it. I actually stole it from my book that I have back there. I adopted it from them. And now it's really simple. I teach whoever, what the audience is, leaders, startup founders, VCs, whatever. I teach leaders or I teach professionals what effective leadership is and how to do it. That's it. I teach people.
So there's one additional discussion point around this would be, well, what if I'm changing careers? What if I'm just at the very beginning of something? Can you lead with, well, I'm really passionate about blah. And what I hope to do is this wonderful thing.
Yeah. So the way I was thinking about it is more for the professionals, right? And so that's for somebody that's already doing it. But for anybody that's a student, it can be aspirational, right? It's what you look to do in the future. Even if you worked for years in one function of supply chain and you want to move to something else, you're going to change what that is to what you want to do in the future, right? And so if there's, Maggie, it's a really great point. If there's something you're passionate about, think about it like this. Startups, when they raise money, they don't raise money on what they're currently doing. They raise money on what they're looking to achieve in the future, right? They're selling a version of the future of what they want to create. The same thing can be true for you. If there's something you're really passionate about or something you want to achieve, then you build that into your one-liner of how you describe yourself, right? Like, I'm studying this, but what I hope to achieve is this, or what I'm looking to build is whatever that might be. Derek, do you want to jump in here? Was there anything else that you want to add?
The only thing I'd add to this, right, is especially if your early career, even frankly, at whatever stage of career it is, your one-liner evolves, right? It matures, it grows, it changes, you shape it, you mold it. So I think the big mistake that you can make trying to come into a one-liner is trying to aim for perfection. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about getting it nailed right. You know, you'll figure out what works by using it. Right. So I think the most important thing is recognizing and appreciating that this is a way for you to position yourself in a way that it's a hook. I want to talk to Derek a little bit more. I want to get to know a bit more about this person that's standing in front of me. And so with that mindset, to what Andreas and what Maggie said is, just draft one and then just start using it. right? Seeing how people react, seeing how people respond. Does it encapsulate and capture who you are? And if it doesn't work the first time around, I mean, when I first started doing this, the first one or two, when I started hearing them out loud, I was like, man, that sounds pretentious. That's corny. That is, but you have to just start working on it. And I think that first step is probably the most important thing for you to just start doing, and put it out into the world and see where it goes.
Yeah, that
There's
was one of my biggest learnings from what we had all learned is that when I meet someone and they come up with something that is, just really outstanding, it didn't occur to me that they had thought about it in advance and they had prepared. They had prepared to meet a person, they had prepared for a meeting.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good point there. Yeah, Derek, you reminded me of another piece there in terms of the aiming for perfection. Because I could coach people on this a lot, and it was a challenge I had as well. Is I would try to nail down the one perfect one-liner that works for everybody I talk to.
Right.
And just to let everybody here know, it doesn't exist. Depending on who your audience is, you can tailor it, right? If you're talking to fellow students, you can have one version of your one-liner. If you're talking to somebody you potentially want to work for, a professional, you have a different one-liner, right? And so I give you that with the example that I gave you with mine. So if I'm talking to a startup founder, I would say, or a venture capitalist, I would say, I teach founders what effective leadership is and how to do it as they scale, right? That's that audience. If I'm talking to an executive, I say, I teach executives what effective leadership is and how to do it across their organization. Same one-liner, adjusted for the audience, right? And then they would say, how do you do that? And then I would give them an example. Or if you're a student, I would give them an example of what I'm looking to do and achieve by doing that. And then the other last piece of why your one-liner is important is it helps people remember. So when somebody says, "Hey, Derek, what does Brandon do, or what does Carla do?" Instead of them trying to fumble through like the 3-minute story you told them of them trying to figure out what it was, it's in a sentence or two, right? They can say, "Derek solves this problem. Derek does this. Dan is really good at this thing," right? And so that's why your one-liner is important. It helps other people introduce and sell you as well, right? Not just the person you're talking to. So I'll pause there, Maggie, if there's anything else you want to add.
No, I'm conscious of time. And we did spend a little bit more time on this part of it than we had originally planned. That's fine. We'll make it up on the back end after we come up the breakout rooms. But I'm going to click the button and you're all going to go whoosh. And if anyone has trouble, I'll be in the main room to solve any problems that might come up. So we will see you in 20 minutes after you've had a chance to practice these ideas. Alberto, do you have a request to join a room? Hey, Kim, were you in a Zoom room and you got kicked out? Kim, if you could come off mute, please, and I can route you properly. Hi, Kim.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. My headphone's not working.
Oh, if your head, well, I can hear you well. So are you, is it possible for you to come on camera?
Yeah, I can try.
Okay.
So what option am I supposed to hit?
To come onto camera, you would click on your video. There you go.
Okay. You got it?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
And so were you in the meeting earlier today? Or are you just joining now?
Yeah, I tried to join and I was waiting and nobody let me in, so I just started to rejoin now.
Okay. Well, apologies for that. We had a lot going on all at the same time. And so let me just kind of brief you on what people are doing right now. So everyone is in breakout rooms and they're
Okay.
practicing two things. They're practicing introductions, and we taught them a technique called sweet and sour. And what that is just to compare and contrast. You know, if we were to meet in a typical environment, you're like, "Hey Kim, how are you?" You'd be like, "I'm fine. How are you?" You'd be like, "Oh, I'm fine." And then there's really not anything to develop a connection from.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is an alternate method where you would share something that's good that's going on in your life and something that's not so good. So I'll give you an example. I was really inspired by this young woman. Her name's Taryn Smith. She rode 3,000 miles solo across the Atlantic Ocean, and she'd never been in a rowboat before. She was just so inspiring. She posted daily videos, and I like to row. I have an erg. So at the beginning of the year, I decided, well, I'm going to row 1,000,000 miles, a million meters. Sorry, not 1,000,000 miles, 1,000,000 meters this year. And so I set myself a timeline, and I started January 1st. But I had had a back injury. And what I found in January is my back wasn't healed enough to be doing that type of volume. So now here it is, the middle of February, and I'm just starting up again at a much lower volume. So my sour is, I don't think I'm going to make my million this year, but I'm still inspired by this woman. So so using that as a pattern, would you like to practice and try something along those lines?
Sure. So you're asking to do something sweet or
Yep, something sweet and something sour. So I had my sweet and sour. I was very subtle about moving to the sour, which is,
yeah.
My back injury.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would probably say, it started the new year. Everybody's inspired to, again, set some lofty goals, and everybody starts out with all these aspirations. And again, in the Northeast, we've had all this snow. It's hard to get outside. It's hard to exercise. So, like you said, there are also getting older, so it's hard to keep on track, right? And I think that can be discouraging. So kind of a similar vein, no specific goal per se.
Yep. So I'm going to point out a couple things. Usually whoever starts, and if you have a like a work dinner or things like that, whoever starts kind of sets the tone, and people will try to naturally follow that. The other thing I would say is when you're in a group and you're using this technique, it can be really useful. Like a group of people you've never met before. They go around the room, they start to share what's going on for them, and before you know it, you've identified 2 or 3 people that you can really relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got something for a follow-up conversation with them, either in person while you're still at that event or through LinkedIn.
Right. And to
You know,
that point, if somebody starts out with a happy story or a positive story, people will latch onto that.
they will, and you know, it really, you know, it's context specific, you know, but it is important to show a little bit of vulnerability as well, when we're doing those things. So that was the first skill that we did, and we demonstrated that quite a bit with different people kind of popping up and talking about things that they felt that they were that was useful for them. And then we moved into a second skill that we talked about, which is how people introduce themselves. And so I'm repeating myself because I mentioned this earlier in the meeting. There was a student that reached out to me last week for a networking call. And I'll say I have a lot of sympathy for what students are going through in this economy to find jobs. They need to network like never before.
Yeah.
And so I have so the person scheduled some time on my calendar. We went into the meeting, and his introduction took more than 20 minutes. You you want to keep it short. You want to keep it 1 or 2 minutes. And a technique that we've been practicing and refining is this technique called a one-liner. Now, I have a video that emphasizes how to do that in my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to pop that in at the end of this meeting for everyone that's here. But I'll summarize it briefly and say, instead of saying, you know, I am my title, and then describing your function, you instead start with a different approach. I help people to achieve, and it's usually a sentence, and it takes a little bit of time and refinement. Like my first draft of my very first one-liner was, I'm a drill sergeant for people's information processes. Very memorable. Not quite sure that that's the impression that I want people to have of me, though. You know, so after some time, I landed on, you know, I help organizations strengthen supply chain through better processes. And then we also talked a little bit about for students and for individuals that are maybe career changing or coming into something new, you don't need to say, I already do X. You can say, well, I have a passion for, you know, I have a passion for artificial intelligence. And I intend to write the script for how supply chain professionals can use that day to day in their life. You know, so, you know, that's an example of that. And so what questions bring up? I don't want to put you on the spot for a one-liner, but I also want to invite the opportunity to practice, because that's what everyone's doing in their rooms right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not like a student. I've been doing this for years, and I get, you know, when you introduce yourself in a room or in a meeting, obviously, we always start with, you know, I'm Kim Armstrong. I've been in supply chain my entire career. It's a passion for me. You know, I want to help people. I want to make things better. I'm always looking to make things better. That's kind of my line, right? I want to move things forward. And whether it be through a process or whether it be through, you know, helping people, young engineers who don't understand necessarily the business, or working with suppliers, because I'm finding that a lot these days. There's a lot of young people, they don't know how to interact with other people outside of the organization. They're all texting, they're on Teams, and sometimes you got to pick up the phone.
I agree. I agree on that. Now, I'm going to say there is a TED Talk that I'm going to share. And I'll share this again when everybody's back in the main room to make sure everybody has it. Take some time to go through it.
Sure.
The individuals that have dedicated the time to developing this, it's super impressive.
Yeah.
And I have seen examples of individuals go to a dinner party and make a life-changing connection of someone that they met serendipitously. So that's and I would also say that it's a skill that we are constantly constantly improving.
Yeah, definitely. Not to
Yeah.
say that technology and, Teams and all that hasn't helped us, because it has immensely, but you also kind of lose the human connection. And also I'm finding information to be fragmented. Like, instead of somebody responding to an email, they'll give me an answer over Teams and I'm the only one that they're talking to. And, so I don't know, there's got to be some rules around certain things.
I think that it's important for us to help. And I would also say, having talked to many people that spent 30 years with the same company and now for the first time in their life have needed to network, um, uh, age and experience are not correlated when it comes to networking. So the other things that we're talking about with students that are in the breakout rooms is we're talking about the idea of leading with generosity. I'll give you an example. There was a professor in Texas, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I see what you're doing with teaching, and it's pretty wonderful. And I'd like to offer to show you how to use a tool that I've developed that's available to you for free to use with your students in your classes." So and that got my attention, and he got on my calendar pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so that is a technique that that works really well. And with that, it's time to bring everybody back.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for taking me into the chat with you.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you see the participant guide in the, are you able to see the participant guide in the chat?
Yes, I got it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome back, everybody. How was this experience for you? And how does it compare with the way that you've had conversations in the past?
I thought it was a great experience. Definitely gives me a few more things to kick the conversation off that I didn't know about before. So I thought it was very valuable.
So while you were all practicing, I did pop a video in the chat that gives a little bit more information. It's a TED Talk about how to develop up and introduce yourself. I'm going to encourage you to take that with you and review that TED Talk a few times. So we've got about 10 minutes for feedback from individuals, and also follow-up questions that maybe there's something that someone said that you found interesting that maybe you want to build upon. So Carla, what was your experience with the students in your Zoom room?
It was great. I had two lovely students that were very talkative, engaged. They really, followed the prompts, and we went through them all, and we talked a little bit extra too. So this was the best one I've been involved in yet, Maggie. Great job.
You say that every time.
But you keep getting better every time. This one was very good. So
yeah.
And I think they appreciated the hour thing because they both have other activities they're trying to rush off to. So
yes. And so we have 9 minutes left. What else? So we started the conversation before everyone was back from the breakout rooms. I still see some people that are still in breakout rooms. Not quite sure what's going on there because they should be back.
I want to state that the 3 people I had in my room were so prepared and shared so much. It was wonderful. And for them, I want to point out that Larry, even though he did not have a microphone available, he did put something in the chat to share with you guys. So don't hesitate to go into the chat and see what a seasoned professional that was in the room had to say.
Thanks. Yeah, let me just ask real quick, by a show of hands or by an emoji response. Now you guys heard it all in the room with all of us, but now that you did it, do you feel like you built a stronger connection with people, or you have something you could build a connection on emoji or thumb of hands. Yeah, it's most of us, right? And it wasn't that hard, right? It was a little bit awkward the first time, and now it feels like something. Does it feel like something you could use? Awesome. Amazing. Maggie, is there anything that you wanted to close on? I don't want to take any more of the remaining time.
I want to have the room as open as I can for other people to share their feedback. But I would want to reflect just a little bit about, you meet someone in a meeting or in a conference, what's next?
Yeah.
You know, and
That
I'll share.
for the group.
Yeah. Let's put that out to the group. So how would you follow up on these connections? Maybe you met somebody tonight, and what you found was really interesting, or maybe there was someone in this meeting that you saw them, you learned a little bit about what they do, and said, this is somebody that I might want to develop a stronger connection with. What are your ideas on how you would go about that?
Yeah, drop it in the chat. Let's see. Let's drop a couple in the chat here so we can see what they are. What would you follow up with, or might it be something somebody shared in the room or an insight you heard here? And put a little bit more than just LinkedIn. What would you connect on LinkedIn? Connect on LinkedIn, of course, but what would you do beyond connecting on LinkedIn to actually build a connection with somebody?
I'll share the times that I had an experience where people really strengthened a connection with me. Maybe they met me in a conference or something like that, or they sent a follow-up note very soon afterwards, saying, "Hey, it was really great. There's something specific about that interaction that they commented on. Even better if it came with some type of an offer. Hey, I'd love to have further conversation about what I'm learning in school about AI, just to see, so that you can kind of check in and see, what's going on in industry versus what we're teaching in the university." So the power of an offer is really, really really important.
Yeah, the follow-up. This is a really, really important piece to think about, whether you're a student or a professional. When we think about relationships or professional connections, they get their most, anybody who's a professional now is in another head, but they get their most valuable as they compound over time, right? And relationships get more valuable as we build them through mutual reciprocity over time. But the important piece is, if you don't build that first link from meeting a person to turning that into a connection, all of the rest of those things won't happen. So that follow-up is a critical piece. If you made a connection with somebody, send a quick note, right? There's some really wonderful ones in there. If there's a book or an info source related to their work or passion, maybe there's something somebody shared in your group, how they've gone really deep on AI. If there's some resources you can share, maybe your friend or partner or sibling works in that field and has some amazing resources, or you can even connect them. Say, hey, my brother's actually a developer in that space, and I'd be happy to connect you to them. There's different details of what people shared. Maybe there's something you talked about with somebody in your group, and there's something you can follow up to give an update, right? Say, hey, we talked about this in the group a couple of weeks back. I just wanted to let you guys know I really appreciated your feedback in our group and wanted to let you know I crushed the exam, right? Or whatever it might be. What else? Is there anybody that wasn't able to type it that wanted to share it into the room here? Meet for a coffee, follow-up email thanking them for their sweet and sour. Sure, that's a great way to do it. But I think the baseline for all of you is connect somewhere, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram, somewhere to keep that connection alive. But follow up on something personal, right? If somebody shared something in your group that you resonated with, share that. Say, I could totally relate to that, or it's something that I'm struggling with as well, or that's important to me.
I think I'd add to that, Andreas. I think importantly, right? One, just do it, follow up, right? Reach out and connect. Second thing is, as you build on that progressively is, remind them why the connection is meaningful to you, right? So here's what stood out for me, here's what resonated for me. Building on that is then, to Mag's point, you make an offer, right? So, and this is sort of a staircase of impact of that follow-up connection, right? Is there something that I can do for you? right? Here's something that I find that might be really valuable to you that I think you could use. So that offer, because really what you're trying to do is just progressively, if you think about those different steps, is just how much how tightly, how closely you're actually pulling them towards you as well, and you being a source of value for them. Because you got to imagine from a lot of people's perspectives, right? Is you might have a whole bunch of people reaching out to you. So how do you, as that person trying to foster that connection, stand out from the crowd of people that might be reaching out to them? Imagine you're going to a concert. Think about all the people that are trying to shake the hands of, of the lead singer, right? So how do you stand out from everybody else that just wants to meet them and say hello, right? So it's going to be, yeah, you can just say hello. You can say, I loved your song. Or, man, here is a, here is a hook that you might like. So you're now progressively making yourself more interesting and standing out from the rest of the crowd. So just think about how do you move up that ladder of impact with the folks that you're trying to reach out to. But if you don't have that hook, don't worry about it. Just try to shake hands. Right? That is a start.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dan, I see you have your hand raised.
Oh,
yes, Dan McCarthy.
Put it down. Put it down.
Pilot error. It's pilot error.
Okay.
I have one more for everybody that's here, right? This is the easiest one you could possibly do. There's a chat in Zoom. If there's somebody you connected with here, send them a chat. Say, hey, I really enjoyed the conversation just now. Here's my LinkedIn. Here's my phone number. Don't even wait until later. Send somebody a chat right now. Make it as easy as possible. Derek made a really great point. Actually do it. That's really easy. It's in the chat right here. You don't even have to wait. You can send each other a LinkedIn or, hey, I just added you on LinkedIn. I'd love to follow up on this conversation, right? This is just an example. And even in a virtual form, you don't have to wait till afterwards. You can do it right there as well.
Now, I'd like to remind every single person that is in this meeting, either you are a student that wants to learn about networking, or you are a professional that is interested in helping a student to network. We are all members of professional organizations, and the next few minutes will be spent introducing these organizations, and you can make your choice whether or not you'd like to get more involved. So Ken, Olivia, which one of you would like to kick it off?
Is Ken wanting to? I don't care.
I mean, I can talk about, I guess I did put in just now a link to the survey, so please fill it out. We want to get your feedback. Hope you all had a great time on this. There's a CEU certificate. So for people who are getting recertified, that certificate gives you an hour of training for your certification or recertification, or to show your professor, I went to this, extra credit, please. I'm also going to put a link into where the recording is going to go. It won't be up probably until Friday. Let me quickly just show you the calendar. There we go. I'm going to share screen. Share screen. All right, here's the calendar. So this is what's upcoming. In March, Monday, March 9, we have a session on negotiating. So this is not just good for work, could be good for school, could be good for home, team and multi-party negotiations. You're going to buy a car, whatever. Moshe Cohen is an amazing negotiator. You will learn stuff that you will remember for the rest of your life. So Moshe Cohen coming up March 9, Monday. April 15, we have Jim Zellum doing the real root cause, cultural leadership, and the challenge of change. So I think students would love that one too. May, we have one on the impact of effective mentorship on career development by Olivia, who's going to talk in a second about her New Haven chapter, and Ryan Rock. So that's coming up May 13. We also in September have Rodney Bonds coming up. So I'm going to give you a link to where the calendar is, and you can see where the rest of these are. This New England Supply Chain Conference, by the way, October 5th. Monday is 5 hours of free education. It is not salesy. It is educational. So you will really like it. There's nothing, no people trying to sell you their systems or anything like that. It is real education. So anyway, and the next student night will be in October. So we hope you look forward to that. The rest of the stuff I can show you on the calendar. I'll put the link in the chat. As it relates to the Massachusetts chapter, let me quickly share screen with you. Okay. So we have a couple of classes that are coming up soon, and I can certainly let Maggie talk about them. But I'm going to give you the link to this webpage. It shows you left to right. If you're interested in CSCP or CPIM, there is a left to right comparison. Yeah, so I think you'll really like that. Also, we have this right here. This
And
I'll
then
give
for
you the link.
students, you might want to talk about certificates.
Oh yeah, go ahead,
Um,
Maggie. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you can click on our certificates link. So this
Yeah.
is something new that ASCM is offering, and I can tell you a story about Oregon State where the head of the supply chain club um, uh, placed a petition with the school and had the school buy the supply chain club certificates in procurement. And they studied together as a team. And when they were ready to graduate, they had their pick of jobs in that particular field. These are self-paced online. If there's a group of students that decide that they want to go through the certificate process together, let me know. We're happy to create a little bit of instructor support for you. And the prices, the time commitment is what I would really emphasize. You can start and finish one of these in a few weeks. And so if you're in the summer and you're starting to get a little anxious about internships, this is a great way to stand out.
Yep, it's excellent. It is. So thank you so much, Maggie. And also, I will have the link for the past presentations, of which this should be up by Friday. I'll put that in the link in a few minutes. Be sure to copy all these links before you hang up, because once you hang up, you won't see the links anymore. So that is that. And Olivia, I will turn it over to you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Ken. So as Ken had shown the calendar, every event that Massachusetts does, we do in conjunction with my chapter, ASCM, the state of Connecticut chapter. And we're lucky enough to get people from all over the country that join these events. So everything we do is joint. So that calendar he just showed you is our calendar as well. We are working on potentially doing a in-person plant tour. More will come with that as the time comes up. We do offer as well certifications and certificates. We run all of them all the time. So if you are interested in any of them, whether it is with instructor, a flipped classroom structure, or self-paced, please let us know. And we will provide you any support you need in that space as well. Also join our email list. So you could go to the ASCM New Haven chapter website, because we send out fun emails and things that keep you not only up to date with everything we're doing, but also we provide fun trivia, networking opportunities with different board members and members across the board, in person and virtually.
And student membership is free.
Yes. Yep.
And if you are a student that wants to get a certification, the certification upgrade is also free. So it's a big savings to sign up while you're a full-time student.
Yeah, and what I'll do, I will put a link to the student member page right now. There you go. That's for our chapter. So it doesn't, whatever chapter you're in, it doesn't matter. You join for free. It's free for a student. So might as well get your networking done. That's great. Thank you, Olivia.
And not only your networking, but you definitely have to belong to a professional organization beyond being a student, and continue to educate yourself and grow.
Yes, that is true fact, my friend. True fact.
Every field has a professional organization you must belong to.
Loving it. Yep, absolutely true. And let's see, we have Larry Spinello. Larry, you can have a minute on ASQ. By the way, I will mention that if you do belong to ASQ, the certificate I gave you won't work for them. They have a different certificate. Larry will give it to you if you're part of ASQ. You have to get a hold of him directly. He'll put his email address in the chat. Go ahead, Larry.
His mic's not working.
Oh, geez, we got to get him that headphone with a mic again. You know what
He's
I
good at
mean?
chatting though. Watch the chat thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Um,
Does he know sign language?
well, I'll talk for Larry. Pay attention to his emails, everyone. He does send out emails. The chapter does send out emails, so pay attention to that. Um, join their events. As Ken said, yeah, I got you, Larry. They have an awesome board, so join that. Um, as well as their event in April, the event we all hold in conjunction is hosted by ASQ. So definitely join that. And Larry, you can type if I'm missing anything, but also go to Larry, like Ken said, if you need your certificate for tonight to get points.
Yep, for ASQ people. Yep, absolutely. Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. And Karen, anything you need to add? And then we will.
If I were to add anything, I would say that as a retiree, I think the most important thing that I've acquired is being a resource. So as you are collecting all this information from all this networking, if it's not valuable to you, it's valuable to someone else. Put it in your toolbox, pull it out when you need it. It's going to make you an incredibly valuable networker because when you are no longer identified by your job, you quickly learn you have to do something else to network. So I listen for things that I can then share with other people and become a wonderful resource in your field. You'll all do great and be patient. I know some of you have said the market's not that strong, it's not that hot right now. I've watched professionals be incredibly patient, going after what they want. You eventually will get it.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you,
That's great.
Karen, for that insight because your knowledge and experience has helped so many people. And it's always a joy. Also, guys, based on what Karen said and all this stuff, we are always looking. I know Ken and I and Larry, since I spoke for Larry, we forgot to bring this up, but we always want to hear from you. So please make sure to reach out to us through the survey, whether reflective on this event, if you would have changed anything, whatever, so we can shape future events accordingly, as well as if there's any topic now or in the future you would like us to do a presentation on, or bring a speaker in-house. We take that very seriously. Ken, myself, Pervez, who's the VP of event planning for the Save Connecticut chapter, we review that on a monthly basis to decide what the events are. So please reach out to us. Do not hesitate because we look at those and then seriously do programming around that.
Yep, we'll check the surveys in a few days. So that's great. Thank you. Oh, by the way, Larry, there's an email address that you need to copy out of the chat to someone who wants an ASQ certificate. So grab that. I will ask Alan Dunn as well. You're a Caltech guy. Any final thoughts from you from Caltech as someone who instructs over there? You have to unmute.
There, I'm unmuted. Sorry about that.
Okay, go ahead.
Repeat the question. I was busy doing something else.
No worry, no worries. As someone who instructs at Caltech, do you have any closing thoughts also for the students?
Yeah, just think about supply chain as a new science, as a new scientific endeavor, and think about it as something with great discovery opportunities and great new technologies. AI is more than just the bright, shiny new object in the world for all of us. There really are features in AI that can really be useful for all of us. And so really pay attention to the technology. But the most important thing goes along with the theme of this whole program. At the end of the day, it's still about people and building relationships with people, building knowledge-centric relationships with people, building friendships with people, doing things with people, and paying attention to people. Be respectful, but demand respect as well, and you'll do just fine. To me, when I look at the crowd here, the faces in the crowd, with very few exceptions, This is the future of global supply chain management. But more than that, it's the future of shaping of global supply chains, which, as you know, have become ridiculously complex since 2020.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. That's great. Jacqueline, anything from ASCM Corporate you want to share with the students?
Oh, put me on the spot there.
Yes.
Yeah, well, what you said, this is the future of supply chain. It's big and there's so many little nitty like positions that can be worked into. But I guess ASCM is here for you to help if you need training, obviously. But it's exciting to see enthusiastic people and wanting to get out there and just help make it better.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. And I will also point out for everybody that Andreas did put a link for the Never Eat Alone in PDF or audiobook. There are links. Grab them now while we're still here. We'll continue to network for a few minutes for anyone who wants to stay on. We wanted to keep it short, to keep it succinct, and everyone to get what they needed to get from this, so we didn't keep you guys too long. But for anyone who wants to stay longer, I'm just hanging on and networking. So grab the links while you're still here. Grab them now.
Anyone, I'd like to say one more thing, Ken.
Sure.
Anyone that mentioned parenting parents,
That was me.
talk to me.
You gotta
I'd be
talk
one
like
of
that.
those parents. And probably the most important advice I could give to any of you would be, you don't want our advice and we don't want yours until we are ready. Until we're asking for it.
Thank
True.
you for that, Karen. Thank you for that. I'll take that to heart. I don't think my dad has asked, so I will zip it. Thank you for that.
But truly, I've been there, I've done that. And if anyone wants to talk, I'd be totally available
I'll
to
reach
you.
out to you, Karen. Thank you. I appreciate
And for
that.
the people who are shy, I will stop the recording. All right. And